Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. The third indictment is going to take place this week, according to reports. I want to read you the conclusion from the judge 5 years ago that looked at John Bolton's potential and almost certain, but likely, mishandling of classified data, or the allegation is that he put classified data into his book. He did not wait for the government to sign off on the publication of the book. The conclusion by the judge was defendant Bolton has gambled with national security of the United States. By the way, this is the third indictment. Comey, Letitia James, and Bolton. Hillary Clinton eventually will be, check the segment prior to this one, go to H.A. Goodman's other channel and watch the segment on the Clinton indictment. But you're going to have probably 10, 20, 30 indictments. Who knows? He has exposed his country to harm and himself to civil and potential criminal liability. The fact that it was already published, the judge couldn't go ahead and do anything about it. But I want to read you really quickly before we get to the legal analysis. Check this out. This is hilarious. In the event Bolton was, quote, uncertain about classification status of information required to confirm from an authorized official that the information is unclassified before he may disclose it, violation could result in assigning to the United States government all royalties, remunerations, and emoluments that have resulted, will result, and may result from any disclosure, publication, or revelation of classified information not consistent with the terms. So the royalties could possibly go to President Trump's administration, the United States government, while President Trump is president.
Of former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton. It happened at 7 a.m. this morning.
Shortly after the raid began, FBI Director Kash Patel posting on X, quote, no one is above the law. FBI agents on a mission.
David Spunt joins us now with more on this breaking news. Hey, David.
Hey, guys, not much we can say at this point, but information will continue to develop. As you mentioned, about 7 o'clock this morning, FBI agents raided Ambassador Bolton's home. Notable, we're being told by two government sources that they are looking for classified documents as part of a potential leak investigation. We're told that Ambassador Bolton is not in custody. He's not under arrest. And you can see some police cars outside there. But, you know, this is going to be a long process. We saw the raid of former Trump advisor Roger Stone's home down in Florida several years ago. Eventually, he went to trial. We saw famously in August of 2022, exactly 3 years ago, a little bit more than 3 years ago, the raid on Mar-a-Lago that still has the FBI in hot water. That's a little bit of a different situation as it was a former president, but it deals with classified documents.
If you're turning 65 or So I did not realize this, but there was a probe going on when President Trump was in office last time because John Bolton wrote a book and he violated his NDA, the president said, in doing it. And he felt as though there were classified information in that book. The probe dropped when Joe Biden became president. So is this picking up where that left off, David?
It's possible. I don't know with 100% certainty, but it is notable, guys, that John Bolton, Ambassador Bolton's security clearances were stripped earlier this year by President Trump. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, took that security clearance away. They had concerns. The administration had concerns about Ambassador Bolton still being able to access some of these documents and have some of those security clearances. It's also notable that John Bolton had a security detail as well. Because of the threats from Iran on his life, that security detail, that government federal paid security detail, was also taken away by President Trump. So Bolton was to have to get some private security. So we're looking, but still notable, 7 o'clock on a Friday morning, that the
Private, armed, almost certainly security. This is why every citizen has the Second Amendment. They can become their own private security.
FBI all of a sudden is knocking on the door of John Bolton's home. And I also will say it's important that, this is not just the FBI able to do this. A judge has to sign off on this. There are other layers involved here. It's not just the FBI says, let's go to John Bolton's house tomorrow morning and see if he has any classified documents. There are certainly more procedures in there. A judge and others would have had to sign off on this, as well as people at the Justice Department, presumably Attorney General Pam Bondi. No comment right now, though, from the Justice Department. No comment from the FBI as well.
So this started 40 minutes ago, and so agents are still, we believe, in the house right now going through things?
That's what we're told. Yes, absolutely. They're going through things. It's not clear if he's still on scene, if he's in the house while this is happening. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes the subject who owns the home or owns the property is not there. We know during the raid at Mar-a-Lago, President Trump was not even there at all. It was the summer, and he doesn't live at Mar-a-Lago in the summer. So it's not clear if Ambassador Bolton was even home. We're working to find that out. But we know that he was just, this is his primary residence. This is where he lives. He does TV appearances. He's still out and about. So it's unclear exactly where he is right now, but I'm just told he's not in custody. This deals with classified records, potential classified records. And, at which point we'll see down the line if a grand jury feels there is enough evidence for charges. But this is really the first.
So if you go back to the judge's 10-page order, you can read this. Bolton was national security advisor to the president. He was entrusted with countless national security and privy to secrets and privy to countless sensitive dealings. To Bolton, this is a selling point. His book is entitled The Room Where It Happened. The Room Where It Happened. Oh my God, what happened? Not that room. And we're not talking about that happening. He rushed to write an account of his behind-closed-doors experiences and produced over 500 pages of manuscript for review. By the way, he's on record as stating he destroyed all the notes, which is destruction of government records, potentially as well. Not 4 months later, Bolton pulled the plug on the process and sent the still under review manuscript. Still under review manuscript. Again, just to be annoying. He sent the still under review manuscript to the publisher for printing. End of story. That's what the basis of the indictment is. Okay, that's what the basis of the indictment is. Okay, Bolton complains that reviewing hundreds of pages of national security advisors tell-all deserves a swifter timetable. Access to sensitive intelligence is rarely consolidated in individuals, and it comes as no surprise to the court that the government requested several iterations of review headed by multiple officers. But what is reasonable to the court was intolerable to Bolton, and he proceeded to publication without so much as an email notifying the government. I mean, the arrogance, the hubris, the narcissism, and this is just, at that point in 2020, nobody back then, I told you that President Trump would come back. If you watch this channel, I told you. But nobody could have imagined President Trump as powerful and as influential as he is now. And they thought they could get away with everything. That was their MO.
Court proceedings happen. So I don't want to get over my skis and predict that that's going to happen. May not happen, but it's still notable that this is going on right now.
In these raids, the New York Post is reporting that they busted into his home in Bethesda, Maryland. In a raid normally, do they have how do they get in the house? Would they ring the doorbell first and Bolton would come to the door?
Correct. Yeah, that's usually what it is. I mean, they would ring the doorbell. I mean, that's the proper way that agents usually handle these situations. There's usually kind of a de-escalation of these things before tensions rise. Mm-hmm. And sometimes if they need to bust through the door. I've not confirmed that independently that they busted through the door. I'm not sure if it was any sort of ramrod or anything like that. So I don't want to get ahead of it. But that is possible. Yes, they will if they feel that they have probable cause to get inside and need to get inside. I will note we've not heard from Ambassador Bolton yet. I'm sure we will through his attorney or possibly himself. So it's something we're going to watch and see what he has to say. But as of
legal analyst and author Greg Jarrett. Greg
So what took place, ladies and gentlemen, is that he allegedly put classified data into a book. He allegedly put classified data in a tell-all book because it was, catnip for the morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats. They wanted books. Well, actually, nobody knows I don't know how many people bought the book, but this hysteria that, Trump, it's so chaotic there. And it's like, nobody really bought it. Nobody cared. Anyway, hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. Check this out.
Greg's a great thinker and a writer. Greg, what's your reaction to David's report here?
Well, I think Bolton's in legal jeopardy, obviously. When he was NSA, he was privy to a daily stream of classified information. It involved matters of national defense, secret intelligence. So it was so foolish to write a tell-all book, especially since he published it without waiting for final written approval from the government. Even back then, a federal judge scolded him and warned him that he was gambling with the national security of the nation, causing potential irreparable harm to the country. And the judge said to him, right to his face, you can be criminally prosecuted. So even if a sanitized version of his book was released, he's still in jeopardy in two other ways. If he kept classified documents in his home or in his office, that's a crime. And if he leaked information that he had in his head to somebody who was unauthorized, that also is a crime. So, it looks like they convinced a judge based on probable cause that a crime might have been committed and evidence of that crime was inside either his office or home to issue today's search warrant.
Okay, let's move on to this news coming in. The Washington Post, the editorial board, took an unusual step. It blasted New York State Attorney General Letitia James for lawfare, bias, and selective prosecution after a New York appeals court tossed out what it calls her outrageously excessive and unconstitutional $465 million civil fraud fine against Trump. Now, Letitia James says she plans to appeal, but Greg, the appeals court judges sounding like they are setting the stage for the entire case to be thrown out. Listen to this. 2 of the 5 judges said they would have sent the case back for a new trial because of serious errors, and a 3rd judge said he would have tossed the case altogether.
Top to bottom, it was a ludicrous case. And the $500 million penalty, including interest, against Trump was wholly disconnected, Liz, to the alleged wrong such that it violated the 8th Amendment.
And then CNN says, James, who defeated Trump in court. It's like, no, the highest court in New York completely destroyed the judgment. He doesn't have to pay anymore. They found that it was complete political bias. Trump won, as always. It's unbelievable. He's like the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politics.
The case itself was a shameful contortion of the law, exploiting this consumer protection statute where no consumers were harmed, accusations of fraud where the lending banks took the witness stand and said, we weren't defrauded, we made $100 million. They did their own due diligence. They found that what Trump had done in his valuations were totally accurate. So this was classic political lawfare masquerading as a legal one. And you're right, the judges castigated Letitia James for persecuting Trump, and they utterly destroyed Judge Arthur Engoron for his absurd financial penalty. They said it was utterly devoid of any legal basis.
Let's listen to Letitia James in 2018 campaigning on getting Trump. The appeals court judges basically were citing this. Watch.
I look forward to going into the office of Attorney General every day, suing him, defending your rights, and then going home.
She looks forward to going to the office of Attorney General every day and suing Trump. And Democrats have the audacity, the absolute unmitigated audacity to say that anything Trump does is politically motivated.
I say one name, Donald Trump. That should motivate you. Will you sue him for us? Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the He's got to know my name personally. I'm President Trump.
And now Letitia James is indicted for potential mortgage fraud, where these are documents that it's not like you have to accuse somebody of inflating their net worth and like they becoming like this legal pretzel because you had to find some kind of novel interpretation of a legal statute. Like mortgage fraud is pretty simple. Okay, you gotta pay. If it's a rental property, you pay higher insurance and higher mortgage rates. Okay, that's it. More can go wrong. You're renting it out. But if you don't, if you lie about your place of residence or the number of units, because okay, so there might be even more indictments for Letitia James. So anyway, the Democratic Party, wonderful, morally superior liberals, devoted their soul to destroying Trump, and it didn't work. The opposite took place.
Cannot avoid justice in the great state of New York.
I mean, justice is supposed to be blind, right? So is Letitia James representing the people of New York State or the Democrat Party?
She's representing herself and the Democrats who...
Red, white, and blue, thank you. Thank you so much for the kind words. God bless you, and God bless everybody here. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. Red, white, and blue, thank you. To my super chat, thank you.
Who tried to derail President Trump's political candidacy. And what she did, you played the clip, that is highly unethical. She should be disbarred for that. When you're specifically targeting an individual, preordaining an outcome as your campaign, mantra, I mean, that is just shameful conduct by any public official, particularly an attorney general.
Thank you so much, the one and only Greg Jarrett. A pleasure to have you on. It's good to see you. Now listen to this.
Hey, it's Tish Jarrett. Donald Trump is mentioning me by name, and it's because we've beaten him in court, and obviously we pose a threat to him. So I need your help. Now. Could you please chip in? We've got a fundraising deadline, and I need to raise funds so that I can remain as the Attorney General of the great state of New York, the rule of law.
The federal government's investigation into former national security.
That was interesting. That was very interesting.
Advisor John Bolton pushing back against Democrats who are calling that raid on Friday on Bolton's home retribution. Remember, the FBI conducted a surprise raid Friday on John Bolton's Maryland home over claims that he sent highly sensitive classified documents from a private email server to his family during the first Trump administration. John Bolton right now has not been charged with any crimes. Joining me now is New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congresswoman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here. What is your reaction to that raid?
Yeah, interesting that John Bolton never said anything about the inappropriateness of raiding Mar-a-Lago because Jack Smith was not properly appointed, as the judge pointed out. So, look, he obviously hasn't been charged. This is part of the investigative process, and they'll see what the documents, what they say, and it'll lead to the justice. Unlike what we see in New York under Letitia James, where it's, malicious prosecution, abuse of process repeatedly, and she finally got slapped down by the appellate division. By the way, a left-leaning appellate division, which is good to see that actually justice for all is sometimes being supported in New York State, and that makes me feel good as a member of the New York Bar.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah. It feels like the chickens are finally coming home to roost, Congresswoman, after 10 years of attacks against President Trump and lies. I spoke with your colleague, Byron Donalds, about it, Congressman from Florida, yesterday. Here's what he said. Watch.
As I understand it, Maria, this was something that was being probed back during the end of the first Trump administration. Yeah. There were concerns that Mr. Bolton was sending classified information out of the SCIF, which nobody is allowed to do. nobody's allowed to remove classified information. And apparently he was doing that. So this investigation is going to continue. One thing of note, it appears that the Biden administration sat on this information and did nothing. Once again, Democrats weaponizing government against their political enemies as opposed to upholding the law, regardless of where that goes. But I want to be clear. I have a security clearance. I review information in the SCIF. Members of Congress, agency staff, nobody's allowed to remove classified information.
Congressman, I want to move on to the crime crackdown and the Trump administration.
Nobody except for Hillary Clinton. And apparently everyone who worked for Madam Secretary, that's why Comey wrote the Comey letter, because he stated that Uma Abedin was sending classified data to Anthony Weiner. Okay, that's why. But check this out. That's why he wrote the Comey letter.
President Trump, John Bolton, is learning the hard way, perhaps, that no one is indeed above the law. The FBI spent hours today raiding Bolton's Maryland home and D.C. office. Agents were seen carrying out boxes, both locations, looking for classified documents that Trump's former national security advisor, turned, of course, liberal media fave, could still have in his possession.
Not a fan of John Bolton. I thought he was a sleazebag, actually. And he suffers major Trump derangement syndrome, but so do a lot of people, and they're not being affected by anything we do. I guess his house was raided today, but my house was raided also, called Mar-a-Lago. So I know the feeling. It's not a good feeling.
Well, Bolton's been suspected of leaking secrets for years. The New York Post reports that during Trump's first term, the DOJ launched a criminal inquiry into it, but the Biden administration shut it down for political reasons. Here to weigh in is Jonathan Fahey, former federal prosecutor. Jonathan, we'll get to what President Trump also added to his comments in a moment, but what exactly do you think they were looking for here and why?
Yeah, this is quite interesting in that they're doing the search warrant now, and a lot of these issues with the classified documents and classified leaking and things like this have to do with his book in 2020. And the reason I say that's important is because to get a search warrant now, you have to have it can't be stale information. So they must have new information that he currently either has classified documents or evidence of the retention of classified documents or spreading classified information in his home. And it's important also to know this was issued by a judge in Maryland, the search warrant. So that's what I think they're looking for, is classified documents that he may still possess. And remember, he has no business ever possessing classified documents at his home, unlike Donald Trump, who actually was allowed to have them into his home. But that's what I think they're looking at, and they must have new information that led them to this search warrant just today.
President Trump was asked about whether he got a heads up on this. He said, I don't ask about this. I don't know anything about this. But, clearly that's the narrative now from Democrats, that this is Republican weaponization. He called Bolton a sleazebag. He can't stand John Bolton. Bolton hates him, dislikes him intensely. They hate each other. So now it's a question of whose ox is being gored.
Yeah, and I just think that's sort of nonsense, because President Trump actually answered that quite well. It's like, yeah, there are lots of people that hate President Trump, and they're not all having their houses searched. And again, a judge in Maryland, which isn't exactly conservative or Trump-friendly in terms of judges or anything.
If a judge signs off on an indictment that Kash Patel or Pam Bondi or President Trump's administration wants done, it's not because the Washington Post and New York Times have journalists with sources inside the U.S. government leaking, let's say, former FBI officials, Brennan's, officials, all these people in the Central Intelligence Agency leaking nonsense, completely false, fabricated, absurd nonsense to left-leaning, progressive or leftist publications. So journalists literally published garbage that was given to them from sources, fabricating the Trump-Russia myth and all of that. Okay? So when Trump gets an indictment, it's like, okay, this is the evidence. We have the evidence here. They had zero evidence for anything to do with Trump-Russia. But Trump has evidence that these people committed crimes, okay? They were narcissists. They had immense hubris, arrogance. They never thought Trump could win again. But not only has Trump won again, he survived an attempt on his life, and a firefighter lost his life. Where's the investigative journalism there? Gee, I wonder why. Why hasn't the Washington Post or New York Times won a Pulitzer Prize finding out what happened at Butler, Pennsylvania? Oh, I wonder why. And it's like you have a situation where everyone from Bolton to Comey to Letitia James to 10, 20 other people, including Madam Secretary, never thought that the American government, the American political establishment, wouldn't be theirs any longer. Okay, President Trump, J.D. Vance, hopefully another Trump Republican, controls the future of America. Okay, they were on the wrong side of history. They love to talk about history. Okay, they're the ones who created a Red Scare McCarthy-era myth and preside over endless wars. If you know anything about U.S. history or world history, the wonderful, morally superior Democrats are not the heroes. They're like, you know, to borrow a term from a comedy sketch, they're the baddies. They're not the heroes. When they're like, oh, he's on the wrong side of history. No, if you voted Democrat the past 3 elections, you're on the wrong side of history. That's pretty obvious.
Else issued this warrant. So that judge must have looked at what was submitted and found that there's probable cause, that there's evidence of a crime in his home, or they wouldn't have issued that warrant. So, you know, again, I don't think it's really fair to jump to that conclusion right now. And again, we don't know what will amount to this, but of course that's what everyone's going to say. It's weaponization. But of course, you know, everything against Donald Trump all fell apart with just the lightest judicial scrutiny at a higher level. So it's hard to really, you know, attack Trump
Jonathan,
on this when he's really been more of a victim.
I want to move to another subject. Sorry, Jonathan. I want to move to another subject. A federal judge in Florida late last night, who's appointed by Obama, moved to try to...
The best time to...
United States as well.
Classified documents. The fact that the FBI believes that John Bolton should face charges over alleged email classified documents. Obviously,
in other news,
saw the raids at his home and his office. A senior FBI official on the raid, New York Post, we have this quote saying the Biden administration had probable cause to know that he had taken material that was detrimental to the national security of the United States. They made no effort to retrieve it. That was a friendly administration to Bolton. They kept bashing Trump the entire time for weaponizing law enforcement, and they, by politically stopping a righteous investigation, are the ones who weaponized law enforcement. What are your thoughts?
Well, I thought it was interesting in this piece. So senior FBI official talking reportedly to the New York Post, that they said that this case is entirely separate from a case that was opened involving whether there was classified information or violation of an NDA for his 2020 book. Because there was some reporting on Friday, we thought, this connected this raid back to that book? But this reporting is saying it's something entirely separate. It's over an alleged emailing of highly sensitive classified materials through a private server. So that's not an allegation I've heard before. So there may be a lot more to this case. Many, many steps to go. But the
Trump's adversaries can't use a computer without the absolute, like a catastrophe taking place.
FBI did gather evidence from both home and office locations. They'll have to sift through that and see if there's something worth taking to a grand jury now.
You know, Shannon, one of the things that conservatives have been really concerned about, and I think rightfully so, is the idea of debanking. We first of all saw...
And Elisa, Greg, thank you for the kind words. Thanks, everybody. To my super chat, thank you. Thank you again, red, white, and blue.
A lot of this in full force with the Canadian truckers, but it is happening here in the United States as well. Here is a quote from the...
Now,
Jim Jordan giving his analysis.
of course, The left and the right and their allies in the media wasted no time melting down over the news and accusing the Trump administration of weaponizing the justice system, seemingly forgetting how they treated President Trump over the last 4 years. Take a look.
Your reaction to hearing that John Bolton's home is now been searched by the FBI?
Well, Kate, the timing of this is chilling.
The fact that the FBI director...
How many times have you heard the word chilling? It's chilling. Oh my God, the sensibilities. Can they ever come to the conclusion? Can they ever acknowledge? Can they ever realize that the sensibilities of morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats is completely irrelevant? Their sensibilities are completely irrelevant to over half the country. Completely irrelevant. Lying and setting up and framing and trying to crush and destroy people, and then pretending that they're morally superior. Oh, it's chilling. Oh, it's so chilling. Well, wear a coat. Put the heater on. Okay, because it's not chilling. It's, you know, James Brown, the big payback, karma. I mean, they committed crimes. So Trump didn't commit any crimes. 0 crimes. They actually committed crimes, setting up and framing Trump, or doing things like leaking classified data.
Goes online and tweets about this or whatever form of posting he did. The fact that the vice president of the United States jumps on that.
Oh my God, oh my God.
Suggests that this is a politically motivated gesture.
It does feel like this is yet another norm broken in a real serious way.
What I'm concerned about even more is that this is somehow political retribution, that the FBI has become the Federal Bureau of Inquisition.
We know that the president is embarked on a pretty extensive
and McCabe, who said that Comey lied about leaking.
Effort to go after his perceived enemies, to,
he said he was running on retribution.
They use the word perceived in a hilarious semantic attempt to claim that, well, there are no enemies. Of course, it's perceived. I mean, Trump doesn't have any enemies. There's no adversaries. It's perceived by the orange monster. It's perception. It's his maniacal orange perception.
That's right. I am your retribution. That's what he told his supporters. So there's all kinds of reasons.
Florida Man Bear. Hello, everybody.
I think to look at this with a jaundiced eye.
House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan is here now with more. Thank you so much for joining us, Congressman. I don't know if you were able to hear that. Nicole Parker did a very good job of sort of laying out exactly what the safeguards were going into this raid, but also pointing out the differences between the raid we saw this morning and the raid against Mar-a-Lago. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. No, I think Nicole's exactly right. I don't know how this went down today, but you're right. The press wasn't there. There wasn't all this, the big scene that it was 3 years ago this month when they raided President Trump's home. I think the big takeaway, though, is think about what we've learned in the last 4 weeks. Because of the good work of the Attorney General, of Director Patel, of ODNI Director Tulsi Gabbard, think about what we've learned. We learned that Jim Comey and his chief of staff were leaking classified information. Right. We learned that a whistleblower has come forward and said Adam Schiff was leaking classified information. We learned from Tulsi Gabbard that there's another whistleblower who said that they changed the intelligence community assessment. They changed the report.
So Comey, Letitia James, you'll have Bolton next week, or this coming week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Be here on the channel as well. You'll have Schiff almost certainly within the next 2 months or 3 months. A whole bunch of other people as well. Possibly Clapper. I think Hillary Clinton within the next 5, 6, 7 months. You'll have a bunch of people. So, watch the channel. I've been telling you for years and years.
To say something different back before President Trump even took office, between Election Day 2016 and Inauguration Day. And now we learn That change, by the way, Charlie, was done by Brennan and Clapper at their urging. The report was changed back then. And now we learned today that John Bolton mishandled classified information. So you got Comey, Schiff, Clapper, Brennan, Bolton, all out to undermine the president. That's the story here. You mentioned the deep state a few minutes ago. That's the deep state in action, trying to sabotage the guy we the people put into the Oval Office. That's what they tried to do. And now you got good people running these federal agencies who are looking at the facts and just going on the facts and bringing that forward. This is not political retribution. This is accountability, and it's exactly what the American people voted on when they put President Trump in the White House on November 5th.
Okay, and so I think it's so interesting. You know, those forces operated throughout President Trump's first term. They continued to operate for the entire 4 years of the Biden administration. Have they been neutered now? Have those forces been silenced? Have they been broken?
Well, I do think it was interesting what Greg said as well. The arrogance of these individuals. We actually deposed Mr. Clapper and Mr. Brennan last Congress on a different issue. Remember, they also signed that now famous letter, the 51 former intel officials who think they're so much smarter than us hillbillies in flyover country signed the letter saying the laptop wasn't real when they knew it was. The FBI had the laptop. So we deposed. But yeah, these guys are all think they're better than us. Now, President Trump has taken their security clearances, which I think is a good first step.
Right.
And we'll see what happens. We know that Attorney General Bondi is looking into the issue Tulsi brought forward, the changing of this intelligence community assessment in 2016 and 2017. I think Mr. Brennan said things to Trey Gowdy in a committee hearing. I think he may have said things to us in our deposition last Congress that don't make sense. So I'm glad she's investigating that. And I'm glad Mr. Bolton, if he in fact kept classified information. You know what this sounds like too? This is what Joe Biden did. Joe Biden kept classified information at his home because he was writing a book. We had that hearing with Special Counsel Hur.
Joe Biden likely broke so many laws, from mishandling classified data to potential bribery and graft. And these are if you watch Saturday Night Live the past, I don't, but if you watch it the past, 10 years or 8 years, 7 years, it was always how, buffoonish or sinister the Trump administration was. In reality, the people committing the most crimes were the adversaries of President Trump. That is a fact. From setting up and framing the absurd Russia hoax, you'd have to be a complete imbecile to believe that Russia was so afraid of Hillary. Even Comey wrote the Comey letter because classified data was being forwarded from Aberdeen's computer to Weiner, aptly named. And, it's like unbelievable. They're not afraid of the Democrats. No, politically right now, the Democratic Party is in complete turmoil. But the lies that were told, the lies by omission, that's the main thing. Also, lies by omission. That's how you deceive people. Deception is another word for a lie by omission. And that's what Democrats and media and Hollywood did for 10 years. And now they couldn't convince enough Americans that their corruption should be ignored and that President Trump was terrible, because President Trump stands for enforcing immigration laws. If you don't like ICE, change the laws. They're literally enforcing the laws. Change the laws. But Democrats won't do that because they're duplicitous, and they know that if they change any immigration laws, they'd lose the House in 26. So they don't want to change the laws. And Trump ending military endless wars. He's against endless wars, which is the moral imperative to have voted for Trump. The Democrats have a very warped view. A lot of them, not all of them. A lot of wonderful, morally superior Democrats have a warped view of morality, of history. They're on the wrong side of history, and their morality is a bit warped. Setting up and framing an innocent man in Trump is not moral at all. But anyway, it can go on forever.
And we asked Mr. Hearn, and there were 8 million reasons why Joe Biden kept kept that classified information because that's the advance he got for the book that he was writing. It looks like John Bolton may have been doing the exact same thing. So God bless these great people who are now head of these agencies who are getting to the facts and bringing it forward. And if people need to be indicted, that's going to be up to the Attorney General's office, or the Justice Department, and I have complete confidence in them.
And of course, we also know that the only reason that Joe Biden wasn't charged is because he was A, president, and B, he was too mentally incompetent.
You have pundits and channels who literally stated that Biden was more mentally competent than Trump. The delusion that you have to be so delusional to think, and God bless Joe Biden. I'm not like a rabid, frothing at the mouth, morally superior liberal Democrat. He was a terrible, terrible president, but I don't want him to be in that state. God bless him. He's an American president. Okay, we suffered through 4 years of Biden, but 21% increase or 22 in prices. Okay, Democrats didn't care, and then suddenly, tariffs. But tariffs are for a long-term strategy to ensure more equitable trade deals and that jobs aren't outsourced. But it's like the delusion that you have to be within. You have to be so delusional to be in that mindset, that paradigm. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's right there. The damage is done. Be here for when it takes place this week. The reports are that he's going to be indicted. Third indictment. You'll probably have 10 to 20 indictments or more. Hit subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. It's happening. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. Thank you. I'll be back tomorrow.